Hello, boys and girls, members of the members of the vinyl community. If I could get that, yeah. You got to get a dentist to put these in. You can't go to the 5 and 10, and just throw them in there. You got to get. Hello, members of the vinyl community. Tony P. coming at you from La Casa de Perla, La Hacienda, La Casa Grande. I haven't had a video in a couple weeks, so I figured I gotta jump back on the horse a little bit here. I've done some shorts. Hopefully you've seen them. Now, this video in particular is for a response, kind of, to MGK in Boston about 5 albums when you were 13 or 14 that, meant something to you, or you liked, or something of that nature. And this is sort of a play on another thread of 10 albums that changed your life or you had meaning for you. And for me, I'm going to sort of blend those two. And you have to know where I'm coming from real quick. Very poor growing up. Didn't have a stereo in our house until I was probably maybe a junior or senior in high school. So any record listening I did was either a radio, a little transistor radio, and I have one. Wish I could find where I put it. A little transistor radio that my mother got at the A&P store because she bought so much groceries at a particular time during a holiday. I think she paid $1 for it, and I still have it. Transistor radio. It's somewhere up in the attic. I got to get it. And I relied on the radio or my friends, and I had a couple of really good friends. One was Larry DeRazio, who had a record player that was in a green plastic clamshell, and he brought records over and let me borrow it sometime, and he was really nice about it. Some others were just, if I was at a friend's house and they had a stereo. So what I'm going to show you, each one has a little bit of a story. It's not in any order because I'm not smart enough to have any order. So let's go with the first one. This, of course, the Temptations' Greatest Hits, second volume. And it had such really good songs on it. Psychedelic Shack, Cloud 9, I Wish It Would Rain, Please Return Your Love to Me, Ball of Confusion. If you could get, this is 1970. I should have graduated in 70. But I like 6th grade so well, I did it twice. I graduated in 71. This is 1970. Howie was an African-American kid, my next door neighbor. His family was wealthier than my family. His father was a manager of a auto body shop at a Cadillac dealership. Plus he had his own garage. We didn't have any money. So we became very, very close, very good friends. He's excellent. He's since passed away. Good guy, wonderful guy. But he drove to school. He had a 1966 Corvair, orange, black vinyl top. And I would go to his house so we could drive to school. Well, his mother always made breakfast. And sometimes I ate with him, sometimes I didn't want to. And I would go in their living room, and they had this beautiful stereo. And he, of course, had the Temptations, among other things. I learned about the Electric Flag from him because of that stereo playing. But I would go in the living room, and I would play this in the morning till he'd get ready and get to school so he wouldn't be late. And sometimes we were just late, But that's the Temptations. Every time I hear a Temptations song, I think of Howie. This one, Johnny Cash, Volume 1. This 1969, 68, somewhere in there, when we did get a stereo in the house, and I bought an album, I asked my dad what he wanted. And, my dad came from Italy. They came here in 1950. And he says, buy Johnny Cash. I like a Johnny Cash. And I'm not going to tell the man who bought the stereo that he couldn't have Johnny Cash. But this is the album. This is the original. This is the OG. And I loved it, too. So Johnny Cash, and my dad would say every now and then, put a Johnny Cash on. Put a Johnny Cash. I like a Johnny Cash. Put a Johnny Cash on. So I put Johnny Cash on. And how high is the water? How high is the water rising? 6 feet high and rising. The next two, the Bee Gees and the Guess Who. You can see the Guess Who. This is the Guess Who's greatest hits, I think. The best of the Guess Who. And this, of course, is the best of the Bee Gees. And every time I hear any of these two, I always think of the Queen. The Queen had a huge, one of those huge Magnavox stairs. It like enveloped the whole living room. And again, poor, couldn't go out, didn't have the money. I was still working, trying to gain some money at that time, working 2 jobs, going to school. And so we would sit in front of that big Magnavox stereo and listen to the best of the Guess Who. That's who I fell in love with. And the Bee Gees. Best of the Bee Gees. You know, Holiday. I gotta get a message to you. Oh, and of course the best of the Guess Who, laughing. Ha 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 ha. And I also think of Shadow Man. He found out that the Queen loved the Guess Who, and she sent him a bunch of ECL to you. Shadow Man, still thinking of you, my man. God bless you. Soundtrack, Easy Rider. I think this was 1969. A cult classic. I mean, it didn't hit the top of the charts or anything, but it was a cult classic. And if you didn't see the movie Easy Rider, I do have the 8-track of Easy Rider that was sent to me by that old goat vinyl, Don, if you know him. That's a great channel. But yeah, great album. Jack Nicholson was in there. Peter Fonda, of course, was in it. Dennis Hopper, Karen Black, Sabrina Sharp, Robert Walker. Great movie. This, when they showed us at the movie, you got to watch the ending. We stood up and screamed at the theater. Scream, you know, we give them the old, and we promptly got thrown out of the theater. Best darn quarter I ever spent. Probably. Okay, Easy Rider. So every time I think of this, I think of that movie, and I think about us getting thrown out of the movie theater. Next ones. These were all because of my buddy Larry. Again, the first one probably I listened to off his little plastic green stereo was Inagata Davida, Iron Butterfly. The drum solo, which has never heard anything like it. It was fantastic. You know, like I say, back in those days, you weren't worth anything unless you could pound out the drum solo at the top of your desk in school to make the teacher nuts. But Larry had that one, loved it. He also, this one, Axis Bold as Love, Jimi Hendrix. I think this was in the 62, 67, 66. Okay, I think that all goes when it flips up. Axis Bold as Love. Now I want you to, if you have this album, play it. And think of that 15, 16-year-old kid who hears this for the first time on a decent stereo. And you're going, geez, oh man, I love it. I just love that. Jimi Hendrix, the experience. That was, to me, the start of the underground music. That FM, remember, you had that FM band? There were maybe 1 or 2 stations. We had the first one in Pittsburgh, was KQV-FM. Then YDD came along and so on. They would play whole albums. That was unheard of. Remember, you had the 2-minute and 30-second thing that AM radios used to push? Not in the FM. Not in the FM. We used to hear the whole album, the whole song. Sometimes they wouldn't even do the news, But Jimi Hendrix Experience, Axis Bold as Love. Larry DeRazia. And Larry, who was a drummer in our I always called them 3-chord bands, but we were better than 3-chord bands. But we were always hunting for material to try to emulate. And excuse me, the one that we loved best was Vanilla Fudge. The name of his band was called The Battalion. And we didn't try to do You Keep Me Hanging On, but we wanted to do Take Me for a Little While on here. Vanilla Fudge. This is the OG. I got Do they look psychedelic to you? Look at them. They look like my paperboy, back then. Vanilla fudge. Oh, just wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. And you can't get past Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin 1. Now, when I was a senior in high school and I was working, I was making decent money working. And a buddy of mine came up to a proposition and he said, come with us, we want to rent a cabin. Guys willing to rent us for us in the off season for so many months. But for only so many months. We can't renew it. This was just a one-shot deal because he wanted to earn some extra money in the off season. So we said, sure. And every Friday, Saturday, Sunday afternoons, we used to get together and have quilting bees. We used to quilt there, and we used to we didn't have a stereo in there. Well, yes, we did, kind of. One of our buddies had an 8-track player that had a house adapter that you could actually pull it out of your car and plug it in here, and it would play. It would have 10 speakers, and it was a good sounding little system. And that's what we would do, so nobody would steal his 8-track. He would bring it in the house, and we would plug it in here. And he loved Led Zeppelin, and I learned to love Led Zeppelin. Now this is probably 1971. Okay, so I'm getting used to Led Zeppelin. So every time I think of that, I think of the cabin. Last but not least, I was going to bring Linda Ronstadt into this. Now this is her. Oh man, come on. If you were a young kid back in that day, come on. This was probably 1975. Prisoner in Disguise. Now, and I gave you my ranking in a video a while ago, but that one's my favorite only because I had the 8-track of this playing in my 1973 Grand Am. I was doing my student teaching in 1975 at a local high school. I really loved it there. The kids were fantastic. The school was wonderful. And on this album, she does, let me see here. I Will Always Love You by Dolly Parton way before. I think she did it right after Dolly did. And of course, Whitney Houston does probably the most famous rendition of it. But she did it. I can remember it the most. So, hey, I jumped on this little thread. Kinda. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't bore you. I hope you stuck around a minute. Please like and subscribe my channel. I appreciate it very much. God bless you. May the force be with you. May all your records be flat, and may your stylus run true. God bless you. See you. Bye-bye.